I have Ryan and Neil with me today. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. This one's special to me. I met Ryan um, technically a couple of years ago, but officially became friends with him, I guess, and started talking and communicating with him more and more because our paths kind of keep on crossing rather, based on what we're trying to do in the community. So I'm going to ask each of them to kind of introduce themselves and explain what they're doing, and then we'll kind of get into some of the details of why this is so important. So Ryan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob, for having me. And
Yeah,
I think we're friends.
we are
We're on
friends.
the
Yeah,
friend level now, which is nice.
acquaintances before, now we're friends. So
Yeah, we're
that's
full on friends. We're making it formal today. So I'm Ryan Owell, and I founded Mission Outdoors back in 2017. It's something that I started working on in 2013 after I took a bunch of veterans fishing, and three of them sent me letters that they were taking suicide off the table. And I thought that if I could take my selfish hobby and use that as a way to plant seeds of hope in the lives of our veteran heroes and their families, then I should do that. And that kind of brings me to today. And professionally, I've worked in healthcare for about 30 years, helping hospitals solve problems. And I've got a lot of experience working in hospitals. And I found that there's only so many problems they can solve or we can solve in the hospital, in the four sterile walls of a hospital. There's only so much you can get done there. And for Mission Outdoors, it's all about human connection. So I'm super passionate about this and happy to be here. Thanks.
yeah. Thank you for being here, Neil. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having
Welcome.
me.
Yeah,
Neil Weatherhead. I did 10 years in the Army, served with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Unit or Regiment.
yeah. Night Stalkers.
Yeah. And in 2020, I got medically retired, lost vision in my eye, couldn't fly anymore, and decided that my new mission would be serving veterans outside of the military and on the home front. So I got linked up with Ryan maybe 3 years ago, actually because he was donating a trailer to another organization I was working with. And yeah, so exiting the military, I wasn't done serving. So in seeing the struggles that people had exiting the military and the struggles with PTSD and everything they were dealing with, even active duty, I decided that would be something that I would focus on to help bring a head to, if you will. Because in my own counseling and in my own journey of healing, I found that I got most value out of the connection with others that I was going through like group settings with. And we would end up talking in the parking lot after hours, after the clinical portion of counseling was done. And that just spread into just more need for just talking and being there for each other and brotherhood. I dedicate a lot of my time to that now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. And that's kind of in the green room, I guess, if you will. But before we're meeting here, we had that conversation, and that phrase of thank you for your service, it feels like it kind of loses, some value, loses some impact, and, understanding what service really means and sacrifice for others. I mean, really what you've risked your life for us, for me, for people that are watching this. And when I say that, please know that I generally mean thank you for your service. You sacrificed a lot. All the veterans have put themselves at risk, right? So we don't take that lightly. There's injuries that are suffered both physically and emotionally, and someone that has PTSD doesn't walk up and down the hallway with a limp. You don't know it. You might see it in someone's mood, or their eventually turns into almost like a personality. But it's there's some trauma there that that's how you survive. That's how you survive whatever that event was. And so you're always on guard, and it's having gone through that in my personal life, I have compassion for people that have served, that have had that, because I wasn't in the military, but I lost someone that I really cared about, and so having that trauma and working through that, it's work for one, but your perspective on life changes, and so having Ryan and Mission Outdoors and Wake for Warriors, and you've seen the value in that. I absolutely see the value in that. I think it needs to be shared, and that's why I'm so excited about actually having you two here, because we need to have conversations like this, not just the surface level. Thank you for your service. You've had some friends, you said, that have lost their lives through suicide, through mental health and PTSD. And, we've also had some friends that have taken suicide off the table as an option because of what you're doing. And, Neil, you said the connection piece of it and a brotherhood. I think that's exactly what it is. On the Mission Outdoors side of it, what was kind of that catalyst to kind of grow it to where it's at now? I mean, can you speak maybe on maybe your friend or your friends that you've helped or weren't able to help, but that was really kind of that thing that shifted you into like, this is my passion project now.
Mhm.
This is what I'm about.
Well, I think, as a non-veteran, there's things I've taken for granted in my life, being able to go where I want to go when I want to go, being with family all the time, not experiencing deployment and separation. And, I haven't really lost track of the hobbies and things that I've always enjoyed, the things that I grew up with. Being a Cub Scout was one of my favorite things. I loved learning how to tie knots and start campfires and being outside. And one of the big aha moments for me was, back in 2013, taking these 7 vets out. Had 10 people on my boat total, which was right at the limit. And I shared something that I was accustomed to doing. I've been doing, this since I was a kid. And it's just something I did. But taking these guys out gave me new perspective. I mean, it's all about perspective when you look at this. And if you're out there today and do thank veterans for their service, but take an active role in their life. Show some love, and that's essentially what I did inadvertently. Took these guys out. We fished. I had one individual on my boat that was actually an interpreter from Egypt. He was actually a captain in the Egyptian army, which is way up there. And we affectionately called him Bearcat. And sweetest guy ever, but he got he got blown up. And interpreters in the military have a tough job because they stand out and they're the link to be able to communicate. And this guy, sweetest guy ever. But during this trip, it was during Ramadan, so he wasn't eating during the day. But we all fished, and we came back to camp, and we cooked this food that we made. And as soon as the sun would go down, my good friend Bearcat would go crazy. He would eat everything we caught for the day. And to me, this was just something I did. I always, just been around it. But these guys had never experienced this. And the number one thing they hadn't experienced since their time in the military was feeling the love and friendship of just hanging out. And one of them I remember told me like, "Hey, this kind of brings me back to my roots. This is what I grew up doing, and I love this stuff. And I forgot how much fun it is." Earlier, when I walked in, I was sharing my idea about going mushroom picking this weekend. The mushrooms are out. After the first big rain in the fall, hit up the western slopes, and there's so many mushrooms to pick. And it's something I've always taken for granted. But taking a veteran out there, someone that may have grown up doing that, and getting them back to their roots, but showing the love, just pick those mushrooms, but then make dinner together and create connection. All these things happen to be by chance. I was there. I showed up. I shared my boat. I shared my hobby. And I think I mentioned this to you before a couple of weeks ago, but this screwed my whole life up. I had my thing going on where I fished with my friends, and it was great, my selfish hobbies, but it showed me that I could offer that to others that are having a rough time. And it's a way to show love, compassion, and create connection and hope for the future. And a lot of these guys that were on my boat that year still come out and fish with me. They still come to our events. They still volunteer. In fact, most veterans don't want anything for free. They want to come and help volunteer. And I think that's great. Come volunteer, but you're going to have the same great experience everybody else has. I get the same great experience too. I mean, I work my butt off at our events, but it's so therapeutic being around these families and seeing the kids get connected and spouses get connected, spouses connecting with other spouses. And for me, that goes back to that first fishing trip. I shared my selfish hobby. I showed up, and this is kind of the outcome of that. Mission Outdoors was growing. And Mission Outdoors for me means, what kind of deal do we need to put on the table to get that veteran family to come out of their house? What's it going to take? Something that's non-threatening. And for Mission Outdoors, I don't want to do an event unless we can invite the whole family, because the spouses and kids are just as important. And so what kind of deal can we put on the table and use as an inroad to offer other help in other areas of their life? They're having problems in their marriage, with addiction, all kinds of different things that we can actually help with. But if you lead with those things, that's scary and intimidating for me too. But if you're doing it with friends and talking about it with friends, it all of a sudden creates an environment where it's safe to open up and talk about your problems, which we all have. So
Yeah. But when we were acquaintances, right? Not friends then.
we hadn't crossed the line.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly. We weren't official, but No, we've sponsored a couple events, and it's just it was interesting because it wasn't the event itself. It was we sat across the table from veterans that are going through some things, and they were actually willing to talk about it. And it wasn't like it wasn't shame, and it wasn't like, how bad is your story compared to mine. It's just like, hey, this is what this is doing for me. And that's where my wife and I were sitting there, we were talking to this young couple, and this guy, she's talking to the wife, I'm talking to him. He's seen some stuff, and you could tell. I mean, and um, I think they're doing well. We actually ran into him again, actually twice since that event, and we had so much fun because they come up and they're just able to kind of let their guard down, and there were people around them, the brotherhood, the fellowship, that they can be themselves, and it doesn't matter if you've gone through something, because guess what, you understand what I've gone through. You were there, or you went through something similar. And that's the connection piece. And so pulling people out, like you said, out of the home, and it's not just you, it's your family, because the family is the support system. Family's going to be, they're going through the exact same thing, it's just different. They don't understand, but we have to deal with mom or dad based on whatever they've gone through, and we have to kind of act this way in order to make it livable, to make it, have peace, and not, have them triggered or something happen, and so it's just a complete dynamic. So pulling the entire family out in that situation, I think, is key. So I love that you do that. It's not just focus on this, but these are people that you know and love and trust. Let's engage them to where it's like, okay, now you're creating new memories with the people that you love, and now new people that you can trust, and that share some similarities, that you don't have to explain how you feel, because you already know that they've felt the same way, right? There is something to that. Like, I'm not alone. So I love it. Neil, you do Wake for Warriors, right?
I do. Yeah.
Explain that, because that's actually, when you told me that, I'm like, that's actually really cool.
Yeah. It started in Georgia, and then one of the participants went to it, came back here, tried finding something similar, and couldn't find it. So he started doing a couple events here, and I came on the second year that he was trying to do events here, and I was still active duty at the time, but just went as a participant. And like you said, veterans want to help, so I went and told them, "No, I don't want any to take anything from it. I want to give back, right?" But in reality, giving to the veterans is just as healing for me, at least, and majority of the veterans I talk to as well. Um, it's essential in our healing process to also hear these stories of other people going through the same things, and knowing that we're not alone, knowing that we're not, in fact, crazy. There's that stigma of PTSD and these invisible wounds that nobody can see. That like 1% of the military, or 1% of the population joins the military, and then the further you go, higher ranks you get. If you join special operations or a more elite unit, you're just more of an alpha uh, personality type, and nobody within those ranks wants to admit that they're having these invisible wounds, or because they feel like they're a failure, or that they're lesser of a person than their counterparts, when in reality they're all going through the same things, just silently. So building this community that we have is essential. That trust, just getting them out into something that they enjoy doing, whether it be mushroom picking, or um, fishing, or surfing, or rock climbing, snowboarding, whatever it might be. It just puts their guard down to something that they like to do. I jumped headfirst in, and started volunteering as much as I can. And then that's how I met Ryan. As I was seeking a trailer to move all of our equipment around, because we were brand new in this area, didn't have much but equipment that was donated to us. And he graciously donated an old Army trailer to us. And since then, like, I've been stuck with them because it's a great organization.
When you talk about it, I never even, my mind, I've never really kind of gone down that path that you just did, as far as like these guys that are in, and maybe they're special ops, they're usually wired a different way, like you said, an alpha, right? Well, you get that way from having, from being tough. I mean, mentally tough, physically tough. But when those things are taken away from you, and you start to doubt yourself, and you start to like, okay, I can't share this because it's a weakness. I found myself when I was going through my stuff, it was isolating. It was no one understands. Like you said, I feel like I'm going crazy, right? Because it's you're in this thing, and what I learned over time, with talking to people that I trust and working through it is at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're taking this thing that happened in the past, you're feeling it present, and you're projecting it in the future. So you have this dreaded future, right? So everything is going to be bad moving forward, and then it's like the what do you call it?
Fulfilling prophecy.
Thank you, yeah. Where I'm kind of creating my own chaos, and it's this kind of this vicious cycle, and so that gets into a point where it's like all these things are causing me to feel this way. I want to unplug. I want to disconnect. I'm gonna not go here. I'm not gonna talk to this person, and that's when things can get dark. And that's what you guys are doing is the exact opposite. We're pulling out the good. We're getting them to think about something that's maybe not normal, right? I mean, you don't really see that type of fellowship. Like, hey, we're gonna go wake surf, or we're gonna go climb, or we're gonna go snowboarding, or we're gonna whatever that is, you're drawing that out to where then they're now seeing it. So when you talk about the art of the deal, right? We're not going to lead with, hey, I know you're hurting right now, and so you got to come out now. They're like, you're not going to get that from them. They're not going to. It's a different approach, and so I think you guys are probably really good at sales, but part of that is, I mean, you have the empathy. You understand where their mind is. I know it's helping you heal. It helps me heal as well. Using my pain to do something that's positive actually gives reason for that. Like, I went through that for a reason, so I can help other people. I have the capacity, I have the muscle memory, I have that ability to do this. So I'm going to do it. Even though it might hurt me doing it, actually seeing someone actually emerge from something is one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. I love what you're both doing. I really appreciate you guys coming in here and sharing. It takes a little bit of guts to do this on video, but you're doing it for the greater good. So
yeah, I wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah. And it really does take somebody either explaining what they've been through and the whole process and what goes on with PTSD, or having it yourself, doing it, going through the process yourself to understand like what all is involved. Because a physical injury, we're fine with talking about, like, yeah, my leg was blown off, or my hand, I can't use it. But the mental, the non-visible wounds are a lot harder to explain and to understand. So when somebody says thank you for your service, and do they really understand, like, what are they thanking for? Hopefully a lot of them get a better picture of what that is. And also, misery loves company. So going over it with people that have been through it is a lot easier than somebody that might not understand. But we're also forged in the fire of adversity. So it makes us a better person in the out.
I think humans in general want to help other people. If you're strong enough to say, hey, this is what happened to me, this is how I overcame it, it helps with that healing. It solidifies that what you've done worked, because now you're seeing it, your advice actually helping other people do it, and the actions. And it's just loving people, and it's and on their time. And I guess maybe that's the best way to kind of describe how you approach it. It's like, it's on your time. We're here because they know, they're not dumb, right? Mission Outdoors, you know exactly what it is. Wake for Warriors, you know exactly what it is. But it gets their mind off of really maybe what they're dealing with, and allows them to maybe let their guard down to where it's like, okay, now I can talk. I can start a conversation. Next thing you know, you're 30 minutes into it, and it's like, this is okay. I'm okay.
More people are going through it
right.
than is perceived. The stigma is we just hide it.
Right. Where do you see this 5 years, 10 years down the line? I mean, do you see this on a national level? Do you see this just bigger? And I mean, do you see different?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I'm just a vessel. I'm not anyone special. I don't have special training in PTSD or anything like that. I have special training in being an imperfect human, though. And I know what I can do every day is bring my A game. A few years ago, I got a call from an executive director of a nonprofit on the East Coast, very large nonprofit. And he called me to encourage me to keep doing what we're doing. We have the same exact model that they have, and that wasn't intended. The events that we plan that's our entry point. And I always tell folks that are interested in getting involved is bring your hobby. it could be mortgages, it could be whatever you've got going. And so, to that end, we've had so many people step up and offer different um, tools. They're all tools in our toolbox, from fishing to hunting to rock climbing to archery. To your point, we've partnered with the traditional bow hunters of Washington State. They have pre-made events all over the state. If you're into golfing, it's like that, but different. It's for men. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke, everybody.
Yeah.
So. But you do go out and walk around a course, but you're flinging arrows instead of hitting balls. And they have these 3D shoots set up all around the Northwest, and they're pre-made events. And they would love nothing more than to bring veterans in for those events. So that's a pre-made event, and there's an opportunity for us to recruit the veterans. We've got a big commercial smoker. That's one of our biggest challenges, is how do we feed the people? And really, when you've had the worst day in the rain, good food makes it all better. So that's a big point to Mission Outdoors, making sure we've always got great food. And then we have a tool to use to earn the right to give a veteran a hand. To Neil's point, especially for the guys who've been in a long time, the Special Operation Forces, which we have a large population of those here in JVLM.
Yep.
I say this, as a little bit of a joke, but they're all liars. Every one of them's injured. The challenge is, and everybody knows about it, from the top down, but the challenge is, how do you get help when your job's on the line? We're outside of that. We work a lot with the chaplains on base. They know the families. They know who could use a hand or who could just use a vacation. A time when they're home from deployment to get out and spend time as a family. That's why we don't offer an event unless we can invite the whole family. But for the future going forward, we want to add as many tools to our toolbox as possible. We had someone a few years ago said, hey, why don't we go pick mushrooms? Like, you know what? I don't necessarily love that, but yeah, somebody might. And actually, since I've been out doing it, it's slightly fun. And then we hang out and make dinner together. And,
That's cool.
And going back to that call I got from the nonprofit on the East Coast, they just encouraged me. They're a multi-million-dollar nonprofit. Run by fairly famous military celebrity, and that really gave me the kind of push that I needed to move forward. That we're on the right track here. So we're always looking for ideas and things that we can extend to the veteran community. We do a lot with active duty. I refer to them as veterans too. They've been in the trenches doing the work, and what can we offer up to get them involved? Whether it's a volunteer opportunity that they can come serve in. Or just come and hang out with their family as a vacation. So we've had requests from other states to expand. We got a request from a senator in the state of Montana to expand out there. There's a big veteran population and no one really there to serve them. So we want to do that, but it takes a lot to make that happen. So we have that as a goal, and as we add more tools to our toolbox, we definitely we'll expand wherever it's needed.
So Neil, you were in for 10 years, right? You said you flew? Was it a helicopter?
Yeah, I was a crew member on Chinooks.
Okay. Before we got in here, you met Mo Gribble,
Yep.
Jeremy Gribble, 160th Night Stalkers. So our eyes were kind of peeled back, like, geez, these guys are amazing that in what they do, and we've kind of been educated about that, and so a lot of respect for what you've done. A lot of the guys, just when we were there talking to them, to your point, it's like everyone has something, everyone needs help, everyone needs, and you can kind of pick, well, at least I was picking up that sense, like, because they've all seen stuff. I just kind of back to wanting to thank you for what you sacrificed and what you're doing now.
And a lot of us don't have an outlet to help others. Once you get into it, it just grows and grows. And so we love it when people come to us and say, I got this one thing. I build model airplanes and I can teach 3 people how to do it. Great. We will get behind that. We'll make it happen. We've got another program that we've been partnering with another nonprofit on fly tying and fly fishing. And they're very intimate groups. We can handle 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 people, but we make sure they have the funding that they need to put that on, and that we have the right volunteers there. But then they do their thing. And it's just super amazing to empower individuals to make that connection, to share their hobby. And, it's really non-threatening. Like, hey, check out this fly I tied, and I'll teach you to tie it too. And that's where it ends. But through that, you're earning the right to give them a hand, to breathe new life into what they have going on, and I don't know if you guys are Bible believing people, but I think about Jesus walking around washing everybody's feet.
Mm.
You know, Rob, I'm probably not going to wash your feet today, but if I did, that would be meaningful, right?
I thought we were friends, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, but it's, you know, it's how can I give back? How can I say thank you in an active way? You know, I can do a cooking class and I can share my little passion for cooking salmon. I can share barbecue. You know, we're standing up this barbecue competition team, and I think we get 9 people on that team total. It's going to be pretty intimate and something I love. I love doing barbecue. I try to do it right, and I think I've figured out a few things, but it brings it down a level to where it's just me and them and one barbecue. You know, it's not a big conference. It's not, you know, hey, check in, get your name tag. Hello, my name's Ryan. Nothing like that. It's like, hey, we're gonna team up here and we're gonna do this thing. We're also working on starting a competition. Was it a competition rifle team? Is that what they call them? The competitions, shooting guns. I don't know how it all works, but we've got one of our vets has been wanting to do that. We tried to start it during COVID. We weren't able to, but we're trying to spin that up now to where you have an intimate group that becomes a team, just like the rock climbing that Neil's been working on. That stuff is the best. And it's something you can take with you. You can share it with your family. You can bring your kids out. They can get involved in it. Learning gun safety is just good for everybody. You know, where there's a veteran or a first responder, there's a firearm. So putting something like this together is a super fun thing to do. It builds camaraderie. Plus the gun safety aspect is huge. And so my goal going forward is to continue these little pods where you have something special you want to share. Mission Outdoors can come alongside you and embellish that event, make it work, remove some of the financial barriers. You know, we love screen printing. You can see my special Mission Outdoors shirt here. We try to screen print for all of our events so that these vets can remember that special time that they had going forward, and maybe remember to come back and be a part of it going forward. So I would just add that too.
And to that end, I think the connection is kind of overreaching. It goes far past just the veterans connecting together, the families connecting together. We're connecting the veterans with civilians that might have zero exposure to what they're thanking people for their service. And I've seen countless relationships be built, including some of my best friends, Ryan including, that have been built from these events that we're doing. And it's just a better understanding of the appreciation from civilians that don't have any exposure, and what the veterans have gone through in order to get where they're at, and the sacrifices that they have made, what that actually means. So it reaches far and wide.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I know Neil and I did a barbecue down at the Veterans Museum. Was that in Chehalis, Centralia?
I get them mixed up.
And was that last Saturday?
Yeah, two.
2 Saturdays ago?
Yeah.
Well, we did this we did a barbecue, and then we did a tour of this museum down there. And if you're driving down I-5 and you see this Veterans Museum, it's worth stopping into. It's amazing. And all of the veterans featured in the museum are pretty much from around here, going back to World War I. Absolutely amazing. And what an emotional journey to take. It's a lot. But we went down there, we did this barbecue. It was raining, and we were all huddled under these tents, just working it out. And I did a kind of a barbecue clinic. You know, I was doing some brisket, chicken and ribs, and sharing with these families how we do this. But there was a guy that showed up, and he looked really familiar. And also part of that, why he looked familiar, was he was missing an arm. I'm like, I know this guy because I heard his voice, and I'm like, I remember this guy. I know I've been around him. And I said, have you ever been fishing with me? And he said, no, I don't think so. I don't know you. I said, you've never fished out of Westport? I don't think so, but maybe. So I pulled up my phone and started scrolling through old pictures, and I found a picture. I think it was from 2016. And I'm like, is that you? And I'm not going to use the language he used, but he said, yeah. I said, I knew it. I remember you. You fished together. We fished for 4 days together, and your sense of humor was, you know, it was worthy of earmuffs for kids. And I loved it. It was so funny. And we hung out, and this guy, his sense of humor was off the hook. And he had a hook on one of his arms too. He was just trying to tie stuff up. And but we had such a good time, and his sense of humor was just, it was so great. But I could tell he was, you know, working through stuff. And I was so thankful he was there for that weekend to fish. And we had such a good time, and we laughed so much. And my fishing trips back before this veteran thing, just me and my friends having a good time. We were dialed in on how to have that good time. And then these veterans come along, and it's
And we
just
continue doing
insane.
that.
It's
Just have a good time
to a
together.
whole nother level
Yeah.
that I never would have expected. I mean, like, are you kidding me? Did you just say that? And are we really talking about this right now? And
And how did we get here?
That's funny.
and if there's young kids on board, earmuffs. But it's just been such a blessing to be a part of this. But this last weekend, Neil and I showed up in the rain. Neil went and picked up another one of our veteran colleagues that is pretty disabled, and Neil lives in Yelm. This guy's in Gig Harbor. Neil drove all the way up there, picked him up. Basically has to lift him into his truck, drives him all the way back down to Chehalis. I mean, what an awesome commitment. I mean, an investment in this guy's life. And we all get down there, and then this guy shows up without an arm, and I know him, and I show him this picture, and but he's also there with his kid. His kid's in his 15, 16 years old. His kid's so into what's going on, so into the barbecue. And, I said, I just remember the great time we had on the boat and just all this stuff. He's like, I was going through some stuff then, Ryan. It's probably why I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I thought, look at this guy. He's out here with his family. He's out here with his kid. His kid's
Super optimistic too. He's
super
full of life.
optimistic.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was going through some stuff then, but I've made the journey, and I'm doing a lot
That's
better
awesome.
now. And I want to learn how to barbecue right. I want to come help with this competition barbecue. But I thought maybe that time I spent with him helped him get to this point. I don't know that for sure, but what a blessing
Right.
to run into this guy so many years later and to see him hanging in there and to see his son so excited about barbecue and hunting and all the stuff we do, fishing. His son took my contact info with that digital business card I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Son's like, give it to me. I know how to do this, and I'll be back in touch. But it's just phenomenal. And, standing up these micro events is what I like to call them. Like, you have a good idea, we'll get behind it, and we'll bring our stuff. We'll make T-shirts for you. And even if it's, 10 or 12 people, we'll make it happen, because these micro events are where it's at. To Neil's point, and your point, you get too big. And if you have to put on a hello, my name is Ryan, that's a warning sign, and you should go back. And so that's what my goal is for this organization. I think Neil's too.
What is the stat now of
Nobody knows.
Yeah, they call it 22 a day still, but
Right.
that doesn't
that's
involve
BS.
cop by or suicide by cop, somebody that
No.
drives their car over the bridge, somebody that goes skydiving and just doesn't open their chute, whatever it might be. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
just
a bunch of BS.
deliberate.
It's marketing. One of the biggest suicide rates right now is the young guys enlisting in the military, young guys and gals, and it's an underserved.
what do you think that is?
I don't know. I have, I was given that information, and it makes sense to me, being a young guy or gal in the military, just getting your butt kicked every day. You're separated from your support. You're redeployed. You're basic. Across the nation, and they've lost human connection. Nobody's looking for them because they're away from everybody that they know, and they haven't had time to build those relationships yet. And I'm just speculating on how I would feel, going to basic somewhere where my family's not, and then getting stationed somewhere where my family's not, and trying to find a way and build friendships and connections. So that's not included in the stat, as far as I know. Active duty. I mean, there's, and it just, there's so many things that play into that. And just my involvement with Mission Outdoors, I usually hear once a month or more that someone we've worked with in the past isn't here anymore. I've had those calls to go pick up vehicles and stuff from someone that ended their life, and it's just part of the deal. And, I have to embrace it, because there's other veterans in tow with that event, that life event. What other veterans are going to be impacted by this, and how can we jump in and help those guys work it out? Because it's, I've shown up in the middle of the night to pick up cars, and, I don't want those veterans to go alone. And, through these silly events that we do, out fishing or, wake surfing or whatever we do, I've found myself in a spot to help people. I've earned the right through just hanging out and taking someone fishing to get the call in the middle of the night, and I'll take it. So nobody really knows. It's a 22 a day thing that we've been talking about forever, but and also the other thing that plays into it is people that just discontinue to live. The forgotten veteran in their
failure
house.
to thrive.
Yep, they just, Neil does a great job at helping get these guys out, and I wish I could do it more, but being willing to got a bigger car to go pick these guys up and bring them out because they have so much to offer. And they'll tell you right off the bat, I don't want to be a burden. No veteran wants to be a burden. So they choose to tap out so that everybody can have a great time. Meanwhile, they have so much to offer. And it just makes me so sad, especially when you meet these men and women that, you kidding me? You've been holding out on us? I don't care that you have a walker. I mean, you've been holding out. You've had so much to offer, and you're an inspiration, for just coming out today and learning their story and just sitting in a chair talking all day. I'd rather sit in a chair and talk all day anyway. And it's just such a pleasure to do that. So the statistic is messy. How many veterans just discontinue to engage in life? How many veterans that are out of the military discontinue their life? And how many active duty? I mean, I don't know what those numbers are, but it's staggering.
And on that note of not wanting to be a hindrance or something, our friend that we were just talking about said the same thing. Our first event, I took him out to La Push, and I told him the same thing. Like, I get value out of the outreach that I do with veteran organizations, and I asked him if he gets value from helping other people's, and of course he said yes. And I asked him, well, why would you keep that from me to be able to help you? And I think that was a kind of click for him. And among all the other conversations that we had for 3 hours on our way out to the push, we just became brothers before we even got there.
That was
And
amazing.
That's cool.
It was scary going into the weekend, and Neil picked him up in Gig Harbor, drove all the way out to Forks, which is about 4 hours.
oh yeah,
And Neil got there and got out of his truck and said, Ryan, he's pretty disabled. I'm like, well, here we go. We got a whole weekend together. And we bonded, working it out, and, when you're a disabled veteran, I mean, as humans, we all worry about where we're going to, use the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can't move around, that's a real big problem. And so we're super sensitive to that. If that's a barrier, we'll tow a, handicapped bathroom around for you. But this guy came out to the event, nicest guy ever. And we made him our scale master for that event, which was a Lane Cod Derby, because he's super organized. I mean, he was in group when he was in the military, which is part of the soft community. And he announced our winners and took notes on all the folks that which I saved the notes and framed them, because it was a turning point in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And he went home and jumped on Amazon and started buying camping gear and
That's cool.
mobility gear to be able to get out more. And he came to the Washington Tuna Classic. He came to a fishing expo we went to. He just came to this Veteran Museum event.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to actually be on a kind of a podcast type thing tomorrow and share his story. So, and if folks get a chance to visit our Facebook, which is missionoutdoors.org, you can look up our video from the Lane Cod Derby and you'll see our good friend in that video. It's pretty inspiring. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I guess kind of in closing, I again, I appreciate what you guys are doing. I appreciate who you are. I mean, the people that and that are in your circle are very much what we're like overlapping on a lot of things that we're doing within the community. And so I value that, and I value what you're doing, and I value you're taking something that happened and that pain, and you're pouring it back into people to help them. That's why we're here. My goal for this is to put this out there and have someone that is struggling, that's in pain, to take suicide off the table. If it's just one, then this time is well spent. So I'd like it if you guys could maybe just say how you maybe get a hold of you. I know it's missionoutdoors.org. Do you have a separate website as well, or is that the best way to get?
Missionoutdoors.org. I'm on all the social medias and email.
Yeah, definitely through Facebook. If you message the team there, Neil or I or a couple others will pick that up. But Neil and I monitor that on a regular basis, and just raising your hand and saying, "I want to come fish."
Yeah,
that's all you got to do.
Yeah, it's needed, and I again thank you both for taking the time to share what you're doing. I'd like to maybe pick it up with some other success stories, kind of get into some of the details there, just because humans have always communicated through telling stories. Because it's something it's why we watch movies and read books, right? It's the story aspect of it, so you can learn a lot from people sharing their stories. And so that's why this form of video, in my opinion, connects with a lot of people a little bit differently than me just spitting into a camera like this, and this. It's people need to hear the conversations and realize like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, or it's resonating with them a little bit differently. So, if you're out there and you do need help, reach out to Ryan or Neil or even myself. If you have value, we need to help and we want to help. So
Yep, even if you're up for just a good time,
absolutely.
look us up and
Yeah.
we'll connect and do that.
Yeah, I think you said is like you don't have to say anything, just show up.
Just show up,
Yep.
bring your friends, bring your kids, bring your dog. Neil's dog is under the
Jojo,
table right
yeah.
now, but if you've got other friends that are non-veterans that want to come, they can come too. So
Jojo runs Mission Outdoors.
yeah, from under
She's actually the
table.
mascot. A lot
Yeah.
of times she has her own shirts.
Yeah, she
Okay.
has her own shirt. Yeah, that is true. It's just so funny. All of our events where there's always dogs in our videos. If you go to missionoutdoors.org on Facebook, every video's got. Well, JoJo, you
Yeah.
can actually see what she looks like in some of the videos, but it's pretty awesome. So
Yeah, that's the one thing we were talking earlier, and I'm kind of going past here a little bit, but dogs don't care what you look like or what. I mean, they're happy when you're home. They're sad when you leave. I mean, we all need friends like that, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
she's a big part, obviously, for your healing, which
Mhm.
I think is awesome.
yeah, it's something that we've been kicking around as a goal is, these service dogs. It doesn't take, as a dog trainer, it doesn't take that much training to be able to train a service dog. So
Mhm.
we've been kicking that around because it's kind of a neat opportunity where you still have a micro event where
Yeah.
you can learn those skills to get that dog off the ground and prepare it for its new owner. And, so again, going back to our Facebook page, please message us if you want to get involved and volunteer. There's so many ways to connect directly. It's not just, hey, give money and here's a picture of the kid you're helping to feed. It's come out and meet
Yeah.
the mission and, truly connect with these veterans to thank them for their service, because it's more than just words. It's action.
Absolutely. Love it. Gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for
much.
having us.
Appreciate it.